It is 4 minutes after 8. This is the Public Works Committee meeting for February. Mark Adeletta, Chair.
RTM Public Works.
What did I say?
Public Works.
We're Public Works.
Is that how it's going to be tonight?
Yeah. We're on a good start.
You got your hands full, Ed.
Coming out swinging.
Measure my words.
As we get going, I'd like to welcome Rolf Olben back to the committee. Thank you very much, Rolf, for being willing to serve.
Not at all. I didn't want to leave Paige alone for District 4.
I know. I was all by my lonesome, and now I've got a buddy.
So now-
buddy system.
So I think we
So
have 2
happy
from
to
every
have you back.
committee and 3
Two
from
from every
District
district, I think.
3. 2 from every district
It's perfect.
and 1 from District 3. So this evening, we've got Public Works Director Ed Gentile with us. Before we get to Ed, why don't we go ahead and approve? Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting? That was Vince that did those, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice job, Vince. Any comments, questions, concerns, edits?
One for me.
Okay. Can you score the, we're gonna, the motion is just right there, right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you can use that sheet. I have a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Over here.
That was too fast.
All in favor of approving the minutes as is?
Looks unanimous to me.
Yep, unanimous. Thank you. So with us this evening, we've got Ed Gentile, a Public Works Director. In many of the previous years, Ed has joined us. Thank you, Ed. And for those that are new, Ed does a little bit of a background on Public Works, what their role is within town government or the town. And then previous meeting, we did do our homework. We went over with the 4 quarterly reports, Ed, that you had shared with us, the 4 previous quarterly reports, and this group had some thoughtful questions to try to bring some structure and some organization to tonight. I did forward those to Ed. So with that, maybe Ed, if you can just do a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll go through the questions that this group had, and it is budget season, maybe we'll touch on the budget. Before we get started, on the budget front, I know a couple of you around the room have been reaching out to me regarding the budget. Before we go discuss the budget with Ed a little bit and we ask questions, have many of you had a chance to look at the budget submitted by the Board of Selectmen? Well, we haven't put the Board of Selectmen one is out yet, is it? It is. It is
I
out,
watched-
okay, I haven't looked at it
I
yet.
watched the video on
Right,
Saturday night.
the working session I was on.
Yeah, yeah, I saw you. I was like, I know.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I know someone on TV, right? Okay, so we'll use that reference as the stepping off point for our questions, recognizing that there's a base of an understanding as to where the current budget was drafted and stood. So with that, Ed, maybe you could just do a little bit of an introduction for those of us that are newer to the committee. I know we've got at least we've got 2 people on the committee new to the RTM.
I'm more than happy to. First of all, thank you for having me tonight. Appreciate it. Ed Gentile, I'm the Director of Public Works for the town of Darien, and I've been here for almost 9 years. And enjoyed every minute of it, just to throw that out there for the folks on TV. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor first before we start, because I neglected this in the past, and I really should get to know this, but I'm going to ask you folks to, as I go, just go around the table, tell me who you are, your name.
No, I'm
So I
sorry,
can put
I
a
should have
face and a
done
name
that.
together.
Fair question.
And this is the first time I've asked, and I think you and I.
Want to go this way or that way?
You're the chair, you can make the decision.
So Mark Adeletta, been on RTM since I think 05, 06, somewhere in there. I've been in several different committees, Public Works, Parks and Rec, Rules, TGSNA. I think I'm forgetting, F&B. Sorry, Jack. Yeah, been in town since 1992.
Thank you.
Frank Edelman, been in town since '99 on the RTM. This is my 8th term, so 15 years. And most of that's been on Public Works I think you know me.
Hi, I'm Paige Christ. I've been in town just a couple years now, 3 years. Own a business in town, and I've been on Public Works for 2 years, RTM for 2 years.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Patrick Parr, first year on RTM and Public Works, and I've been in town for 7 years.
Thank you.
I'm Caroline Luz. I've been in town for 32 years, something like that, and I've been on the RTM several times and on lots of different committees, but I'm new to this committee.
Thank you.
Hello, Ed. Jeff Kraus. I've been on the RTM for 2 years, Public Works for 2 years. So still relatively new. Been here in town for about 10.
Thank you.
Vincent Argambell, and was born here, so 72 years in Darien.
I think we have a winner. Drop the mic.
Been on the RTM a couple of times, in and out. I happened to lose those elections where there's more candidates than positions.
Rolf Oben, be here in April, 25 years. Been on the RTM since 2018. Served on planning, zoning, and housing, and more recently in Public Works.
Rohit Parwal, been in the town for about 9 years. RTM, couple of months, and Public Works just starting.
Thank you.
Ian Laird, lived in town for 17 years and been on the RTM for just over a year, and all that time on Public Works.
Thank you very much. In case you're wondering, I was just taking attendance.
We could have handed you that.
If there's one thing we do at a rudimentary level.
Just want to, I am remiss if I don't, ask the questions that are most important to me, which is putting a face and a name together. You'll catch me out in the street somewhere, or you see me somewhere. That look in my face of dread is because I've forgotten, your name, and I apologize ahead of time.
It's not really fair. Everyone knows who you are. That's very true.
How would you like me to get started here?
For just at a very basic level, the role of Public Works within the town for definitely the two newer people, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, let's start with, I think it's easy sometimes to talk about Department of Public Works and what is under my authority by kind of picturing my budget in my head, so I'm going to work my way down through that. We do have an administrative portion. It is located here in this building. 5 of us work out of the office there. I have an assistant director, an engineering aide, and 2 office administrators. So from there, all the engineering work is done. We keep our files, all our mapping and stuff is in this area here. The second part of mine is all the work that gets done outside. The roads, the sewers, the signage, the traffic signals, trees, telephone poles, utility company work, anything like that. That's our DPW garage facility group. I have a highway supervisor over in that area on 126 Ledge Road. That's where his office is. And there's 18 guys underneath him that work there. As I make my way around, we also have the waste management area, so I run the transfer station. Quote unquote, the dump, we call it transfer station. I have to say, I've gotten phone calls in the past from realtors. Though they say the Board of Ed is still leading, the transfer station and recycling center is probably right behind it as a close second of something people want to come here and see for some reason. I haven't figured out why yet. I think it's a swap shop, I'm not sure, but that's one of them. So that's another area that I manage. I have 2 gentlemen over there that run it, one in the scale house and one up in the loader that manages the facility.
And for your benefit, Ed, we've got, as you know, we break down the committee into subcommittees that cover different areas.
Yep.
So you touched on the municipal recycling center. Paige and Carrie are assigned to that.
Carrie, who's not here.
No, did you cover roads already?
I did, but
Yeah, so on the roads, Caroline and Ian, who's not here. Oh, there he is, sorry.
yeah,
Present.
Yeah.
having a rough day.
I am having a rough day.
Okay, that's all right. We'll-
So anyway, keep going, I'll let you
I
know
got you.
who's covering those particular areas as you go.
Another section that is, we have facilities. I take care of the town hall, police department, and the DPW garage. I do help Parks and Rec with some of their larger facilities, the Weed Beach Point, Pear Tree Point facilities, things like that. But basically, managing the facilities with the custodians. I have 3 facility people. from HVAC guys. I have gentlemen that take care of the grounds outside, painting in the building, cleaning the carpets and so on. And I have a supervisor that oversees them doing that.
On this group, on the buildings, you've got two Pats covering. Pat Parr is here, and the other Pat is not here.
Okay. And finally, parking. And parking's a little bit interesting because we split it up. We do have parking for municipal-owned property, and we have a parking fund that manages and funds the state-owned land that we manage by lease through the DOT. So we have quite a large population of spaces, if you will. There's about 1,900 spaces that we have to maintain. It's pretty close to about, I keep saying, about 16 acres of property that I have to maintain with regards to parking at the train stations, downtown behind the shopping centers, and so on. The biggest part, and I tell everyone this is the most important infrastructure in the town of Darien, is our sewer system.
There you go. We're in the focus group, Frank and I.
Winners.
He's a double winner then.
That is, I have 3 gentlemen that in our sewer department. We also have a supervisor, one of the supervisors that manages our facility, he also oversees the sewer department running too. It is a $4 million sewer fund, separate from the general fund and from the parking fund. So those are the major areas that I have oversight over. Any questions so far? Okay, good. I also manage all the capital projects that go along with that. Whether it's sewer related, vehicle related, town hall buildings, I'm replacing windows in the gymnasium, putting a new roof on the salt dome, paving the roads, doing the sidewalks, repairing drainage. We have a healthy tree maintenance budget. I have a tree warden that works under me. We manage the trees within the town's right of way. That's my area of responsibility. Or on the facility, the property facilities in general under my authority. Parks and Rec has their own separate and aside. Private property, they call us Public Works for a reason. We don't go on private property unless we absolutely have to. It's pretty broad.
I don't think you
overall.
mentioned the sidewalks. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, crazy. I was typing.
No worries, no worries. Well, and thank you for that overview. Are there any questions okay.
Yeah, actually, can I do, I think there's a new spin on an old theme here. So we are, I think, trained here to appreciate that the town budget is separate from the education budget.
That's right.
And that the Board of Ed is responsible for Board of Ed facilities, Board of Ed land, anything that relates to Board of Ed activities, Board of Ed manages. So there must be someone who has effectively your job for the Board of Ed facilities.
Correct.
Who would that be? And tell me a little bit about how you relate to that person and what you share resources or anything like that.
I don't want to butcher his last name, but it used to be Mike Lynch.
Right.
The gentleman took his place is Kevin. I think it's Mayhart, I think is his last name. But he works out of he has an office at the DPW garage. So there's a section of area dedicated to the Board of Ed where they have their equipment, they have their vehicles, their mechanic is there, and their mechanics work out of that building there. So Kevin is equivalent to Anthony Campanella, who manages our facilities here, who works under me.
Okay. But Kevin doesn't report to you. Kevin reports to the
Superintendent of schools.
Got it. And so it sounds like he's got a separate and unique, a distinct workforce and a distinct set of equipment that he uses and manages compared to what the town does. Is there ever any crossover? Like, do you guys coordinate, like, so that, the spare tires for your vehicles would fit on his vehicles or something like that? Or is he in metric and you're in imperial or something?
It's all standard dimensions, so we don't have to worry about that.
You know what I'm saying?
The big thing is both of the mechanics for the Board of Ed and for our group work out of the same building. Though they're in separate areas, they are in constant contact. They're always talking, trying to get equipment fixed or repaired or exchanging of equipment. I'll give you a good example. Next week, the Board of Ed's going to be borrowing our backhoe. I mean, we do this on a regular basis. You're in the same building together. You're in the same town. There's no reason that if we're not using something, they need to use it. We shouldn't allow them to do that.
I hope so, yeah.
In a similar vein, Parks and Rec, there's some I won't say overlap, but similarity there in some of what they do. as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we're the only ones with a bucket truck. And constantly the Board of Ed may need it, or Parks and Rec may need it, and we assist them in that way. Repairs to catch basins on parking lots. We know they're not equipped to do that. We're fixing one for them right now. Just, this is something that we do try to coordinate our efforts with and work as a team, not as 3 individual units.
That's good to hear, thank you.
So,
So you mentioned a number of different people. Are they all full-time employees, and are they all,
I have not mentioned any part-time.
okay.
So-
And they're not, there's no like contract labor or anything, they're all,
The ones I've spoken about, they're not contract
Okay.
labor at all.
okay,
I have, just in DPW, I have 33 employees.
33, okay.
So one of the, in your list, one of the things we track, and I'm just wondering how you size it up in your organization, is flooding. So how does that sort of fit in to how you're organized?
That might be a good segue into one of the questions that I forwarded from last session.
Sure.
Flooding and update on some of the outstanding flooding studies. In fact, we received a couple of inquiries. In fact, one of the inquiries now is on the committee. But
Yeah.
an update on some, I think it's 2 or 3 studies that were ongoing.
I'll go through them, but let me answer your question first. With any type of flooding event in the town, whether it be incidental ponding, you know, at a corner of, or on the roadway or something like that, we'll get a Q alert or what we call a work order that you can put in from the Town of Darien online system. We'll take phone calls, we'll get them to, or I'll get an email, get them. So those smaller ones, I will send somebody out to take a look of why it flooded and what we need to do to fix it. It could be as simple as cleaning off the top of the catch basin to cleaning the pipe from the catch basin to the next drain. Those are simple ones, right? The storms that we had a little over a year ago required a little bit more in-depth analysis. So we did drainage studies on those. I picked areas that should not have ever flooded, because they don't show up on the 100-year flood zone, and they did. So we went after those 3. So I can give you a little bit of update on those. Is that a good way to segue right into that?
Sure.
Okay.
You mentioned the Q alert system. Does everyone here know what the Q alert system is?
I've heard about it, I've never used it
Okay.
personally.
the-
I don't know if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go online into townofdarien.gov, our website, there's right on the front page, you have the ability to put in a work order, basically. Call and complain about anything you think town needs to do, and it can go to any department. It doesn't have to necessarily come to DPW. So, you have Parks and Rec, you've noticed a sign that was down inside there, or a garbage pail that was full, or at the train stations, there's a mess somewhere, or you saw somebody do something or damage a light or something, we report those. I get a lot of tree issues. There's a dead tree, can you have the tree warden come and look at it? Those are the ones we move on a lot.
I'm on the page right now. Where like, on the front page?
I could show it to you after
Okay.
after the meeting. So the reason I bring that up is A, to be aware of it, and
Yeah.
I'll cover that. But 2, as part of the RTM, whether it be this committee or even in your district, since the last RTM meeting, I've fielded, or people on our committee have fielded inquiries. But, light out here,
The
there.
light, that was going to be my question.
Exactly,
street
the light
yes.
out, things of that nature. We're going to get the calls sometimes. You're not the only one that gets the calls. Sometimes the RTM members get the calls, just showing, people aren't aware, just like we're not aware. Folks aren't aware that it's as easy as just making the request.
And what do you call it, the
alert.
Q?
Q alert
Q
system.
alert.
Yeah.
I'll show,
What's the Q
I'll send a
stand
link.
Yeah.
Quick alert?
But thank you.
Question, what's the Q for?
And this is more for like repairs as opposed to, or not like capital projects, right?
No, it's not a
Yeah.
capital project.
If I have
This
a
is
wish list, I want-
As he said, a light bulb,
I
a
get those too.
pothole.
Yeah.
right?
The wish list will come through.
Something
There's
needs
under the part
Maintenance,
where
not
it's-
capital,
Where it
okay.
says repair sidewalk, can you put a new sidewalk on Hollow Tree Ridge Road?
Yeah.
There's not a drop down for that. You
Gotcha.
have to-
You have to write that in a little bit, but I get a lot.
Special.
And just so you folks know, that though I know some folks do have issues with maybe using the Q alert system, some of our seniors have some problems with that.
Right.
We always answer the phone here, and I always
Yeah,
answer
you do,
emails.
that's true.
Okay? If you give me at least 24 hours to get back to you, I normally will respond. Some things that need a little bit more looking to, I may need a little bit more time to do it, but I do respond to it, and I require that our folks do the same thing in our office. It's the only way to really do business, where they can trust that you're actually
Thank
getting
you.
information.
Thank you for that.
Okay, flooding.
I'm going to go through some of the drainage studies we looked at. I think one of them was the Grove Street one. Just an update on that, we're about 75 to 80% complete with that study. Remember now, we did start that one a little bit later than the other two, one on Bailey, one on Saltbox. And I'll touch on those in a second, but this one is moving forward. We do have a meeting with the consultant in the next 2 weeks. We haven't set the date, but they're gonna come down and show us the progress they've made. And this is the point where I give them some direction on how to take the rest of the study, because the rest of the study is gonna be recommendations. Like, should we use a bigger pipe? Should we go down this road? Should we replace this section? Does it need to be replaced? What size storm did you use? What intensity storm rainfall did you use? I mean, all those things are questions that we put at them, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're addressing the flooding properly, not just throwing in the biggest thing that we put in the ground with the hopes that it's going to work. So that's the process we followed with the other two studies. This is the one we're going to do for Grove Street too. And this is a private-public partnership. We had 3 other partners with us, Mr. Kip Coons, Mr. David Genovese, and Penny Glassmeyer too, because all of their properties there were impacted, and they thought it would be best if we all put our money together and got a really good study of that Tilly Pond all the way to Goodwise River under I-95 there at Old Kings Highway South. So, and that's what we did. So it's coming to the end. If I had to give you a date, I'll probably be able to wrap this one up. It'll probably be around May, June, depending on what I ask them to do when I send them back. You had a question about the Good Wives study update. I don't know what that was, Mark. But let me touch on the other 2 that I mentioned, so we can put those in perspective. The drainage studies for Saltbox and Bailey have now been completed, and I'm currently working with the first selectman on how to roll those out to the public. Do I just post them online? Do I have a meeting with certain individuals? Bailey was a little smaller group. Saltbox was a larger group. Do we have a public information meeting? So since the Board of Selectmen just wrapped up their budget hearings, it looks like we're going to have some time now to get this out to the public and get some feedback from them also.
So what's the process, so once that information's out to the public, then does it become like, these are capital projects and they just go to the capital project process, or what happens after the information's out?
Part of the capital project, of course, is always funding. When we started these studies, we had just been made available funds from ARPA. So I took some money and I put a little in each one of the studies, because in case I needed to go back or in case I wanted to start to do some work, I had some funds there. We may reorganize it because of the timing right now, but we have approximately $2.5 million of ARPA funds to start from study into construction to get going. We have timing issues with ARPA. They want you to be finished by 2026. We have to designate any project by the end of 2024. So if Grove Street's lagging behind Saltbox, maybe we look at Saltbox going first and then Grove Street going second, and those type of things. But that's a discussion that I need to have with finance and the town administrator. First thing first, though, we need feedback from the residents. Now, I think the area residents are going to be happy with what they see with the study, because there's solutions to it. Going forward, getting the funding for the project will be based on what the estimates are coming in at. Right now, though, I've already gotten or sent an email out yesterday to get a proposal from the engineer to do the design drawings for construction. So I'm not waiting for the meetings. I'm starting to line up my budget. How much to design it, how much for engineering services, how much for construction. I'm gonna build a budget off of that. So that's what I'm doing now. State project, my favorite, Exit 10. Proposed to start in 2025. The last information we have goes back to December of last year, so it's not too far away. 30% design was approved at that time by the town. We haven't heard anything since then. So the original schedule says that they're going to start construction in spring of 2025. They have 60%, 90%, and final design drawings to go through in stages. That's how the DOT goes through their work. So I'm assuming I'll be hearing from them relatively shortly on the 60% drawings for us to take a look at to see how they're progressing with the design. and then we'll get the shot at 90, and then final design phases. This project is about $1.8 million worth of work. And like I said, it looks like they're trying to start in spring of 2025.
And what are they doing at exit 10? I'm not
There
familiar with
is
that
a
one.
large corrugated metal culvert underneath I-95 from, is it Maple, to the exit 10 on-ramp coming down post 53. Large culvert under the roadway. Carries the water from basically Heights Road all the way under I-95. But they're going to not replace it, but line it.
I remember. That's
No.
the one. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Heights, when you said Heights.
They said it was a bridge. They
Yeah.
described it as a
They always
bridge.
describe it as a bridge. Yeah.
The
Anything
bridge project.
Bigger
yeah.
than 60 inches, I think they consider that a bridge. I think that's their qualification. This thing is 68 inches in diameter or something like that.
Okay.
So what is lining going to do, Ed? I'm sorry.
Well, it'll take out the imperfections of the pipe, and structurally, I think they believe it has some corrosion at the bottom that needed to be repaired. You can either open trench dig it, rip it out, but that's not really good for I-95, or they can slip line this, which
Got it.
is just put a pipe through a pipe and make the connections on both ends, and now you have a brand new pipe and it's structurally, the integrity is better.
Got it.
They're
Okay.
also claiming that the liner has a much less rough surface,
Less
which
friction.
they claim will improve the fluid flow.
Like when you wax a boat?
I couldn't answer that question.
Something like
I've never waxed a boat. But I can say that, I mean, clearly, it's corrugated, clearly it's got the variation.
Yeah, all the ripples of the corrugation slows it down, so.
They claim that even though it'll be a smaller pipe, it will have the same throughput.
Understood.
Which
Okay.
they further claim would be sufficient even if we fixed the box culvert under the railroad, and therefore were able to let all the flood-related drainage from Heights go unimpeded to the north side of 95, that this pipe, even though it will be smaller after the relining, will still have enough capacity to take all that water away from the Heights. I think we are skeptical, and we provided that skeptical feedback.
But
And they said it
no
wasn't their
more-
problem.
Right,
They
no
said-
more
Yeah.
water will show up than currently.
That's all after the catch basins, not catch basins, storage facilities.
Well, there's the
Put-
detention
the
units that are
detention
underneath
unit.
the new construction, which should help for kind of small to medium scale flooding.
Right.
Right? For truly large flooding or anything that overwhelms those detention units once they're in service, then we would, I think, have the same problem on Heights Road as we've had in the past, right? And part of that relates to the fact that that's basically a catch point for, what is it, a half to a full square mile of
Drainage area.
drainage,
Yep.
the catchment area. Basically all goes down in front of the Vallas, right? And then the exit from there is a couple of drainage basins that lead to, I am told it's a square
Got it.
box culvert underneath the railroad.
Right, so it's
Am I
all,
getting this right?
yeah, so it's all that incremental retention capacity has increased perhaps the size of storm, but it's not a save-all, end-all for
Correct, so
any,
that's-
for any
That water's
storm.
got to get to the sound.
At some
We can
point.
hold
Yeah,
more
get to
water,
the
we
sound.
can't put out more, we can't flush more
Right.
water. through
So,
the system.
to say, I get it.
So I think it's what, 250,000 gallons underneath the new construction, and so that is that too much?
1 million gallons.
It's 1 million gallons. So
And how long did it take to flood?
I wasn't there, but I didn't take it long.
So-
Now with the last two storms we had, it didn't take long.
So we have a 1 million gallon buffer that we didn't have before.
Right, got it, so,
But on the other hand, we have now 120 to 140 units of housing on top of that space that we didn't have at risk before. So,
understood. Okay. And to answer your question, Ed, I don't know, I went to my notes, someone had raised Good Wives study. I don't know.
It may have been the same one
Yep.
for downtown, I'm not sure.
Yep.
Might have been gross.
Ed, if I may,
Sure.
isn't there also a drainage project that was on the books for the parking lot at Norotan Heights
Yes,
along Heights Road? And isn't that moving forward?
it's on my desk right now.
Okay.
The bid package is finished, I'm touching up the drawings. I want to put it out to bid in March and get it back in April and see if maybe we can do that one during the summertime when everyone's away and the parking lot is barely ever used, so.
That's additional retention, correct?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, what's that one
It's,
called again?
it's underground
Good
galleries,
ones.
about 1,800 linear feet, from the depot all the way towards the train station in Rowan Heights. Just long rows of 4x4 galleries to take the stormwater from the parking lot and not dump it into Heights Road, but to dump it into the ground and see if we can infiltrate it into the ground. We do have an overflow connection into the stone culvert to take it away. And we sized it for a 25-year storm event. So hopefully, none of that water will see
Catch and
Heights Road.
dissipate more water.
I'm sorry?
Catch and dissipate more water.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to. So Federal did theirs. Palmer did a little work on their property on Edgerton. They put in some detention under there. I know a lot of people didn't see it, but it took their parking lot and handled it. And we're trying to take care of the stuff on the train station property, the DOT property. And from that area, provide some relief, but you're not gonna handle those storms that we had last year. That's not reasonable.
Thank you.
Okay. We go on to the next one?
Are we ready to go to the next one? Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sidewalks came up early, is that where we're going? No.
Sidewalks is next on the
Yep.
list. List of near-term priorities. And I will tell you that the priorities change, and they change for various reasons, but they change specifically with the ability for us to get permits from the state DOT. So as much as I have been trying desperately to finish the west side coming up the Boston Post Road, as you see, we try to do a couple blocks every year when I first started, it became harder and harder to get permits from them. So when COVID hit, we had one in place to get started, but then the contractors kind of went away. We're just starting to get back into a construction role where construction seasons will start in March and April. They're starting to find people that will actually work for them. Those things are starting to come back. You've all heard the scenarios, right? Can't find people to work and so on. We've been fortunate with some of the contractors locally, because some of the folks that worked for them were local. So they stayed here with us. So we do have some projects that are gonna be starting off. West Avenue is one over by the federal property. I'm gonna be doing the north side of West Avenue from Edgerton to Norotan. They did the south side, and when I'm done with that, I'm gonna pave that road in July and August. So that's target number one. We do have the Boston Post Road from Hampton to Saltbox, which is opposite the YMCA.
I'm sorry, if you're doing from Norotan to Edgerton on the north side of West, then are you gonna continue to Hollow Tree? Because that was where the kids are walking to school. I think that would be difficult because there's a house that has a big stone embankment there.
I did that 3 years ago.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I was able to do that and stop because Federal was doing their work. I didn't want to do any more, so I brought it all the way to Edgerton.
Okay.
So that when I was ready, like right now, I don't have to do the whole block. I just need that section.
Got
that
it. So
could have been damaged all the way.
That'll fill the gap.
That will take care of everything, yeah. And I actually, from Norotan to Fairfield, just put a new section in. So now they're along the north side from Stanford all the way to the Boston Post Road by the Darien train station. There's sidewalk along the north side the entire way.
Awesome.
We didn't have that before.
Awesome, thank you.
So like I said, Boston Post Road by the YMCA, the north side, so I'm continuing up that. That one I actually have a permit for.
Wait, there's already a sidewalk there.
It's there, but we're replacing it from asphalt, we're making it concrete now.
Oh, good, because it's like the trees. So do those trees have to go bye-bye?
There's not many trees in this section, and maybe from
It's
Gardner
like-
to Saltbox, there's a few,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna be taking down any trees.
Okay.
I've had my,
Sensitive topic.
yeah, that's enough for trees.
Yeah, okay.
You'll see that I don't talk about trees anywhere in this list.
Deny the existence of.
We have a section now they have to finish up towards the Norotan Heights Firehouse from our project in Norotan West, and I can touch on that in a second too. Heights Road, I want to put a sidewalk along the north side, or I'm sorry, the south side from Norotan to the depot entrance. That'll give me some connectivity without having to cross over the road, they cross back to the train station.
Yes.
The Tokenique Silver Hills to I-95 is asphalt now. That's the last section that needs to be turned over to concrete on the I'll say east side, but east or north side up to Okeechobee Road. As you see, I'm trying to methodically get things done, not just patchwork it. But Tokenique is a state road. So that'll require me to do, I have to actually do plans and submit them, where the sidewalks that are town property don't have to do those. So they're giving us more hoops to jump through, but I understand why. It doesn't make it easy to move these things along at a pace that I'm used to. We do have a large project in the Northern Heights Railroad Station South parking lot. I'm actually gonna put a sidewalk from Post 53's building all the way across that parking lot, all the way to the platform at the New Haven bound side. And then I'm actually gonna make a connection from that platform up to Hollow Tree Ridge Road. About 1,700 feet of sidewalk in there. So, and I think Darren is just touching up the plans. I have to review them now. Still have to get approval from the DOT, but they've been very supportive of any improvements we make, as long as we use their details and use their construction materials and methods.
There's not a sidewalk there.
There's not a sidewalk already on
No,
that?
it's just
in,
a street.
Near,
It's just the street.
It's just the street.
Hollow Tree?
No.
Nothing coming down.
So where will the sidewalk be?
On the north side, it'll come down along the north side,
On the
turn
north side.
towards the
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
platform.
Cool. That's awesome.
So that's what I have for this year. That's a lot
Yeah.
to do. So
That's-
that's what we're
And
targeting.
if we have requests, should we just email them to you?
I have an email address. You're more than welcome to send it to me.
I need to raise one, and it's the one, it's the hardest, and it's the biggest, and I'm gonna raise, but we have to raise it, because this was the start of the whole sidewalk project 12 years ago, which was the north half of Hoyt Street, opposite Woodway, to get people, so the commuters are not walking in Hoyt Street from the train station in New Canaan that escapes me, Talmadge
Talmadge
Hill, to get down into Darien. I know that there are barriers, multiple barriers to that project, being either stone walls, state road, electrical pipe, phone poles.
Yep.
This is the hardest one to do,
Easements. and-
Yeah.
Easements.
And property owners that don't.
that don't want
Don't want
to deal. So, but this was, that one stretch was the driver for all the sidewalk stuff that came afterwards. And I'm so glad and so grateful to you, Ed, for all the work that's been done in sidewalks, and I think that the improvement in the network is dramatic and really worthwhile. But we have not tackled the prime source, of the prime problem that set this ball rolling 12 years ago. So I do need to ask if we can find a way to at least outline what the obstacles are, even if we don't have a game plan to tackle them yet.
I can.
And it's too big for this meeting.
No, and we should take it aside, but I will give you a brief, I can tell you that, Holly Schultz, she is still pushing this along. I know because we've had a meeting with the DOT about 6 months ago, via Zoom, talking specifically about that. I know the first selectman was involved in that also. And again, we went over, I had to bring the first selectman up to speed. It was nice having Darren here because he knew the background of what things have transpired throughout the whole process and what the DOT was willing to do then, what they're willing to do now. So I know she's continued to push it forward. I'll be remiss again if I don't tell you that I am trying to get work done, and I know that one is not the easiest of, basically it's the hardest one to do.
Great.
But it hasn't been forgotten.
So one more for you, which is, at one point a couple years ago, on the list was called the bottom half of Edgerton to Norotan, and it's now not on the list, so.
No, it's on the list, it's not the list for construction,
Right.
but the drawings I have in my office have a sidewalk on both sides. And therein lies our dilemma now, because we need to present it to the public. Now, we had it ready for just around COVID time. Wasn't appropriate to have public information meetings, which is what I'm gonna need to have to do, and bring the public in. We're just starting to run these things back up. We have a new first selectman, I have to bring her up to speed on that too. And if you know Monica, she's very intense on, she wants to know the details. So she's been involved in a lot of things going on. So, but that is one that I do need to bring out to the public and get their buy-in to do.
Got it. So the process would be a public information session.
That's the next step. And then we get to hear who doesn't want it and who wants it in front of their house.
I'll be there, because I'm one of those.
Okay.
Do or don't. You don't have to say.
I have a question, because I don't know if it's on the map yet, but about connecting the sidewalk that goes in front of the YMCA on Boston Post Road to just the rest of Darien, like to the town line, basically.
West towards Stanford.
Yeah.
Towards Stanford, exactly. Has that ever been like looked at or not?
Not
yet?
since I
Okay.
saw it on this question. I was trying to
okay.
figure out where.
It's right
You
by my
went-
house. Come on, Ed. It's by my house.
Well, I didn't have your initials next to the request, or it would have made some sense. Somebody, you wrote down Academy, so I'm thinking East Side.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know what Academy
Street.
is.
Oh.
Yeah, Academy.
That's a.
Was that
it's
you?
not- Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a sidewalk issue. That I'm supposed to go to the police about. It's a
Yes,
safety issue.
the safety
Oh,
issue.
safety
That's a
issue.
safety issue.
That's a
But
different
I'll
one.
answer your question.
okay.
I've never looked at that area until
Oh,
today,
okay.
just before our
Oh,
meeting, because I
okay.
wanted to look at the
It just
magnitude.
ends.
It does.
It just, so anybody that's on that side, if they wanted to go to the YMCA, they'd have to cross the
Cross
post road. Or to Henley School,
Mm.
cross, go on the sidewalk, and then cross again. And there's no crosswalk anywhere, except back down at Henley School.
Or walk up the grass, like.
Or walk up the grass where there is a nice path that has
Beaten
been made.
path,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
It's about 1,700 feet to get all, just to get all the way down to Giovanni. So I did take a quick look
Right.
at it, just to see what was in the way. So
Yeah.
it's the first time I've
Oh, okay.
had anyone asked me to look into that area.
Oh, nice.
I can put that on my list and we'll start putting it together. I have a list that goes out about 5 years.
Oh, I'm sure.
And if you've been on any part of the budget process, you'll see that I've asked for some substantial money the last 2 years. I didn't do it this year.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you,
There's a
you guys
reason.
like,
Yeah.
I haven't been able to spend it.
Right.
And no reason for me to ask for money to hold on to it. So I have about 1.2 million right now that I'm gonna start
and in
spending.
the 6-year capital plan, you've got basically 500K per year kind of going to plan on just for,
For the next, I think the next 3 or 4 after that, I think I had a number of like $3 million worth of work I had to do. That included repairs to the downtown area, streetscape areas that had bricks that had repaired, trees, lighting around it, but basically those sidewalks, updating some of those. And we did start some of that last year on Sedgwick. I repaired all that corner, that was a mess. That was one of them where the trees were actually lifting up the sidewalk where I couldn't
Yes.
leave them. Some of the folks in that building there didn't appreciate the trees coming down, so unfortunately, it happens.
It does. Cool.
Any other?
Well, glad to put it on your
thing?
radar. Thanks.
Sidewalks, we're good? And I'm going to suggest the next item, we might be able to skip. It was, there was an inquiry about how we're handling the deferred paving from 2022. I was in the working
yeah.
session on the budget where you mentioned you're picking up, we're
In the
starting some of that.
spring, right?
I think you said April, spring.
See, I did listen.
what do the bids look like?
The bids came in on the 9th.
Yeah. They should be.
They're high, right?
I can't jump over, this is the good news.
This is the
Oh, this is
good.
good. Oh, I don't want, so Ed, why don't you
Trying to
update
bury
us
the
on
headline, Mark.
Why don't you update us on that then, Ed?
Should have let off with this, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Or end
okay,
with it.
So we did come back, the bids came back last Thursday. They were really good. They were really good.
Yay.
Great.
The bids in July of last year were at $135 per ton for asphalt, which is astronomical. I've been paving here for 7 years prior, and I've always been around 90, 95,
Oh my God.
97. So 135 was incredible. This bid that we got back last week, it's down to 117 per ton, which is it's an enormous drop in that short period of time, which has been about 6 months, 7 months. So this savings, along with some savings for milling, diesel price go down, so their unit cost to mill a roadway for us is dropped from $4 to $3 a square yard. Tack coat, they started charging us, it's an oil-based product, at $5 a liquid gallon. This contractor that we chose pennied it, which means gave us 1 cent per gallon. So it basically put all the money in this paving asphalt number. So with that savings, I'm able to do an additional mile of paving here in town. The savings number, if I want to add it all up, was $280,000 worth of savings by waiting till now. So I think I was fortunate.
Do you lock in on that price?
or does it float until you
The
actually
bid
do it?
comes in now, and every week they change the liquid asphalt price. That's what drives your
Right.
asphalt per ton. So right now, it's set at whatever it is. If it goes up, we have an escalator in the contract. So from now until April, if the price changes a little bit, we adjust a little bit. If it changes a lot, we adjust a little. If it goes down, we benefit from that
Okay.
also. So either way, we will adjust with the asphalt prices. They don't get to make any money off the fact that, it
Right,
went
it's just a
down
pass-through.
and charged it. And there's no, the risk is less.
Okay.
By using that escalator and de-escalator pricing change.
Cool. So will that cover, did that cover both paving projects for the year or just the April project?
As I told the bidder, let's see how you do in April. Because if the costs are stay about the same, and you've performed well, I have a rider in there that I can extend it another 6 months and use the same contract. So kind of an incentive to do well. And again, July, August, whatever the difference in the prices are, will be applied to his base bid.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news.
Yes.
We'll take it.
Update on the Norotan West intersection project. So if you've seen it out there, we've done everything but the traffic signal upgrades. We're waiting on the steel span poles that have to go in. The foundations are all in there. All our digging pretty much is done. So once the traffic signals are done, you don't want to pave before in case you run into a conduit you crushed or something like that, you got to dig up the road again. So once the traffic signal work is done, and they should be starting hopefully sometime in March, if the weather stays the way it is right now. And we're hoping to pave in April sometime, that intersection, and then stripe it. So
Close.
I'm hoping by May 1st, we're done out of there and we're enjoying the benefits of that realignment. Now, just so people understand what we did up there is, I didn't put a left turn lane on every approach. The counts for the cars didn't justify it. So we only did from 2 locations. As you head north towards the high school on Norotan, we put a left turn lane in there. That backs the traffic up since it doesn't have it all the way to Heights Road, sometimes even Ledge. The other one is coming from Rings End Lumberyard. That approach from the east, we did put another left turn lane in there. That one would back up, but it doesn't really impact anyone downstream, but that needed it just by the count of cars, the number of turns that were made to the left. So those are the only 2 approaches, coming southbound from the high school or coming from Stanford. We left them single lanes as you approach it. That's what you should see when it's done.
And will there be a left turn arrow as well, or is it a left turn lane?
Yes.
Allow the traffic to?
No, the signal will rotate so that you can turn unimpeded for a short period of time to clear out all the cars that are in that queue.
And you mentioned that you're going to hopefully pave that around April timeframe. Is that, then you're also going to, at the same time, pave the stretch from of West Avenue to Edgerton?
No, I pushed that off till July and August so I can do the sidewalk first.
Okay, so there's 2 paving projects.
There's
in
2
that.
cycles of paving.
Got it.
Imagine I do it every July, but I didn't do it last July. I actually pushed it the same fiscal year, though I pushed it to this April.
Let's see, so the next item I want to clarify, because that one we could meander on that. Someone had raised last meeting communication, and it expanded into a communications coming from town hall generally. And so, given it's Ed who's here, and Public Works, there were comments last time about Public Works does a pretty effective job of communicating. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the general ask or question related to coordination amongst the different departments in town hall. Is there any effort, is there any communication consolidation, I guess, maybe going on, or?
Yeah, because a new communications head, I guess, has been hired by the town, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I just kind of wondered how that affects Public Works and maybe things that could be communicated more effectively, like I learned a lot our last RTM meeting about food scrap.
Recycling.
The conversation
Recycling.
revolved
The
around.
constitution of our waste, basically.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of
It's
this
like-
covers
yeah.
communication. There's the selectmen puts out a newsletter regularly. You post stuff to the web regularly. Parks and Rec, has their own publications. And so there's a lot of information coming out.
Newsletters, yeah.
Nobody's suggesting that's not.
Yeah.
But you have to be on all those different threads.
To know, like, what's
And now with communications, you say director
Yeah.
has been hired. Is there any?
I think she started out, and I don't want to speak for the first
Right,
selectman's office,
understood.
Yeah.
but I think her chore was to get that newsletter up and running.
Mm-hmm.
She has now, and I know when we put out press releases,
Mm-hmm.
we send them to her, and she assists in getting them out to the sources that need it. That's a big help, because it used to be, we'd send it to Linda, and then she sent it out to, so at least, now Marley Hayes is the communications person now. And she has a great handle on how to get that information out to the proper people, so that people get to see it on the computer, or gets to see it, read it as part of the newspaper, or as part of the online news, or however you're going about doing it.
So it sounds like there's actually a resource now that
Yeah.
is a central.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to narrow it down. Now,
Right.
Parks and Rec has their brochures that'll go out. They're gonna go out. They're gonna go out email, they're gonna go out online, they're gonna, they wanna touch as many people as they can.
Right.
Our projects are specific, some of them, require that I do certain things. I have the ability to put out those VMS boards, and I have a couple of them, so I can put it anywhere I want. Just letting people know construction's gonna start, paving's gonna start at a certain time. Your permits for your parking is running out. I've put them at the dump to tell them the swap shop is closed, it's open, it's closed. Those are the things that I have that ability to do that. Other departments have their own way of getting the messages out. So we do sometimes venture out in different directions, but there's reasons for that
Yeah.
Does that,
in my
Yeah.
department.
does that tie it together?
I think so, yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
So the next item on the list, there was some discussion here about Grand Isle, Grand Island.
Great.
Great Island,
Island.
Great Island. And I know it's still in the diligence period, and I'm back new to Public Works, but there was some update back in the summer related to Great Island. I don't know if there's anything you can share as far as operating expenses, assessment, things of that sort, that you're aware of that you can share.
I wish I could. I will tell you why I can't, and I think you'll understand during this process of our due diligence, this is also part of the negotiation phase for our price. So any conversation that I may have behind closed doors regarding that, it could be regarding anything out there, we do need to keep tight right now, and I know that they're continuing to work on it. And as soon as they're able, they definitely will give you updates on that. But at this time, I think it's inappropriate to detail any of that kind of information.
Understood. Yeah. Understood.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sticking with Great Island just for a second, though, because some of us can't let it go. Even if you can't share any specifics about things that you have either found or anything even if you can't share anything about the tangible reality on Great Island, my biggest concern, since this was kind of sprung on us last May, was the governance and the management of Great Island. The decision process for what goes on there and who runs it and how it's governed, right? And I have some strong opinions on the topic that I'm not going to bother you with right now.
Thank you.
Has there been any discussion about, to your knowledge that you're able to share, about the governance of activities on Great Island? Presumably, if we acquire this property, it will require some infrastructure, which will be under the town hall, not the Board of Ed, and therefore will report to you in some direct or indirect way. Is there anything you can share about this conversation, so I'm not hypothesizing here?
No.
Then I'd like to direct half an hour speculating randomly.
You could expand on that, a question. Listen, I know there's a lot of people that would like some information, because, some of them, it may help them with their opinion of whatever is going on there, right? And they have thoughts about how it could be done, things that they've seen in other places. That's all gonna be really, really good information. But right now, this is all about the town doing its quote-unquote due diligence, of course, and negotiating with the owners of the property. And That's where the focus is, and
Right.
that I can tell you. But the other stuff, I can tell you it's been talked about, but it's, you know, the details have not been told to me personally.
Got it. Okay, then I will spare you my
Follow-up
highly opinionated point of view.
Thank you. That covered the items that I forwarded to Ed from our last meeting. If there's any that I missed, please, speak up now. If not, I attended the working session on the budget. If there's anything, Ed, that you want to share with us about the budget, I do have one or two questions I'll just put out there.
Sure.
On the capital items, I remember you talking about the gym, which is a multi-phase, multi-year window replacement. That's covered pretty well. Was there anything else that you would want us to be aware of that's on there? Our next session, we're going to cover the budget here. I don't know if anyone has. I'm thinking capital
One
right
of the
now.
things in your request, that the sweeper
Yes.
was deferred.
Mhm.
So as you think about the operating budget, from the capital for the purchase of the sweeper or replacement thereof being deferred, is that going to impact the operating budget, or kind of, how are you going to limp through? What's the plan?
Well, I'll say we're not going to limp through, hopefully. Looking at the piece of equipment, we always try to project, right, useful life. This has seen its good years. It's produced for us. It had a hard year a year or so ago, a hard year. When we put some money back into it to get it up and running, and it's been working well. So when asked if I could defer for a year, my thought is, okay, I've just spent X dollars on this. I think I can get another year out of this. If some minor repairs are needed, I know I can cover it. My budget is set up for the unknown, but not the catastrophic unknown. Okay. At that point, I usually go down and see Jen and see if there's anything I can do to get any extra money for those type of things. But I've been very fortunate in building my budget throughout the years here to making sure I can cover one or two of those. It's a little bit more than I thought it was going to be type of project.
That was the big one I was thinking of.
It's the only thing that didn't come through, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any others that maybe,
No,
I was there, I didn't hear any
I
others.
was disappointed with the truck. We had received money last year to purchase a new truck.
Mhm.
I had to go back in now and ask for an additional $75,000 to cover the additional cost of the truck, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
So, you know.
How much does
if-
this
It's
truck
life
cost?
these days.
300. It was $275 for one of those big, large six-wheel plow trucks. We're pushing around $350 right now, fully loaded. And since I've been here, I think I've replaced 5 of the 7. I have 2 left to do. And then the fleet will be good for 10, 15 years. That wash bay that we put in a couple years ago when we did the addition to the garage has been a godsend. The trucks have been cleaned on a regular basis right after the storms. We closed the end doors, it's warm in there, we could get the trucks, we could spend some time in there. We didn't have that ability when I first started here. We were cleaning the trucks either out at the end of the bay or out in the middle of the parking lot, and it was 28, 29 degrees, and you just can't do that. So this has been a big, big help for our equipment.
That's awesome.
On the bay or on the garage, maybe we can spend a moment talking about the floor
Okay.
to make sure there's no confusion as to what's potentially being done there.
Sure. The only section of floor that I didn't replace that's elevated has actually bays underneath it behind, are the east bays. They actually face the swap shop and the scale. We found about a year ago some cracking in the epoxy that we had put down. So what I did about 4 years ago is we scarified the floor and chipped up everything that was loose, pretty much right down some of the rebar or the reinforcement of the concrete. We patched all those areas, about 25% of the floor. We sealed it and then we epoxied it with the hopes that the structure would still be sound underneath. We just sealed everything up. Well, with the larger pieces of equipment we had, that floor didn't hold up as long as I'd hoped it would. Right now, we have a floor that deflects. When concrete deflects, it cracks. So we have a bid out in the street. We're supposed to get back at the end of February to do the same repair and replacement that we did in the front section. We take out all the concrete, we put a new structure back in, new reinforcement, we use the heavier design loads, and we pour the concrete and put a new floor in. The funding, hopefully.
Ballpark cost for that.
I'm sorry?
Ballpark cost for that.
Okay, that's been somewhere around 270 to 400,000.
Okay, less than $500,000.
Yeah. I'm just disappointed that it didn't last longer. I'm disappointed I have to go back in and do major work on the garage again. And thank you, Mark, because I don't want people to think either we did work and it failed. We did some work that, with the hopes that it would provide some longevity and seal that.
So those of you that are new here, what Ed's referring to is the new DPW garage that was built a number of years ago. It wasn't actually rebuilt from the ground up, it was partially rebuilt or expanded.
The funding for this, my hope is, and I presented this to the town administrator when I talked to Kate, we had $1 million set aside for the Old Kings Highway pipelining project for the sanitary sewer. About 3,500 feet of 12-inch pipe had to be relined. It was just in horrible condition. We're finished on that project right now. Our budget, our final numbers are probably going to come in around 620,000. I'm hopeful that ARPA money can be moved to take care of the floor. That's my hope. And that's my discussion with the first selectman and the town administrator and finance and Jennifer. So just trying to keep my things going, make sure we spend the money that we have and things like that.
All right, so you mentioned that the 3,500 feet of pipe, that's pretty much complete at this point? I think there's some last few things, manhole.
95% complete. We have about 10 manholes left to do. That'll take us about 6 days, and then we're finished.
Okay, so you're starting to move into phase 2?
Phase 2, I just signed the contract to start the design. They did start a couple weeks ago, started pulling stuff together, but officially the kickoff meeting is next Wednesday. We have a virtual meeting with our consultant, go over the guidelines, the scope of work, where we're gonna be working, what help they need from our guys. They're gonna send people in the field to do further inspections. Manholes that are on private property, I require that one of our guys be with them anytime we enter private property. So all those things are gonna start happening. I wanna start doing work this year and finish before Thanksgiving.
Now,
And there's a phase 3 after that.
yes. Now, it's phase 2, the scope of phase 2. How would you compare that to phase 1,
The
roughly speaking?
The cost of Old Kings Highway was, I said, about $620,000. Phase 2, the pipe and manhole rehab is 1.9 million. Phase 3 is 1.67 million.
Now, we've already put through a bonding separate from ARPA, and that, I believe, should cover you on phase 2. Would you agree?
Keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay.
So if it starts to show that it's going the wrong direction, I've already spoken to the sewer commission chairman. We'll come back in for additional funds. I'm going to start building a budget on that one also. Now that I have some numbers from our original report and we're getting some better numbers for our bids, that may adjust it a little bit. And you're right, it may be just enough. I get a little nervous with just enough, but it's not a bad place to start.
Okay, so then phase 3, whenever that comes to pass, we're going to be back to looking at a bonding for that work, whatever it might be.
My thinking is if I don't have to come in for phase 2, you will see me for phase 3, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I have to come in for phase 2, I'm going to add phase 3 in.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When did we do the bonding? For phase 2?
My recollection, that was 2 years ago.
2 sessions ago, okay. Thanks.
I forgot, I had a comment about the swap shop because I go there a lot. And you made some changes.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we had a meeting last year with the
Yeah.
swap shop.
Yeah, I
Ed was
remember. But
present.
literally, like last week, some changes were made.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I wanted to comment and say. Things are going smoothly and it's good.
It's day to day.
It seems.
Wait, what are the
We have-
changes?
Yeah, what,
So last time I went there, when you drop off your stuff, there's a table now
Yeah.
that like instead of just like putting your stuff where it goes, if you know where stuff goes there, you put everything on the table and then the volunteers
They will sort it?
sort it out from there, exactly. So that was the main thing. And then I don't know why the clothespins were moved up. I don't know what's up with that. Is that just
That wall overhead has had some spalling, so we pulled them forward, we knocked it all off.
Got it.
We're gonna bring a structural guy in just to take a look at the wall.
Oh,
The concrete is 16 inches thick, the rebar in there is 1 inch thick. It should be okay, but I'm not a structural guy, I don't pretend to be
Okay.
one. Bring in somebody who knows what they're doing, and we'll clean it up so it's safe, and the things aren't gonna spall off the top and fall. So we had a couple sections just fall out, and we took a section about the size of my hand
Gotcha.
to the ground,
Huh.
flat concrete. But
Okay.
better safe than sorry, so we pulled everything forward.
totally. But yeah, so it seemed like positive changes. So just-
We got more coming.
Cool.
Coming. I'll give you first shot at this. I'm gonna shut down the swap shop.
Oh, don't
At
say
the end of
that.
next week. Just for a month.
Don't
We have some
panic.
We have some cleaning to do and some stuff to clean up over there. We have some new signage we're gonna bring in.
That's
Just gonna
exciting.
kind of hit the
Okay.
restart button.
Cool.
And maybe
So when
get-
is that happening? Sorry.
Month of March, I think.
The end of next week, I think the 27th?
72.
17th.
And how will you communicate this
24th.
to the public? Just kidding.
You know those big signs I told you about?
Cool.
Right there. And plus, if you haven't met John in the Scale House, John talks to everyone.
Okay.
Don't worry, he'll get the message out.
Okay, great. And then I just had a question, because I'm from the Midwest, and we don't do waste removal the same there as y'all do on the East Coast. So it was super weird to me that you had to like contract your own waste removal people, or else bring your own trash to the dump, or a combination of those
the
two
two.
things together, which is what most people do, I guess, or I don't know. But it just occurred to me that other places in the country, like the town contracts with waste removal people, and I see like 5 different garbage dudes come down my little street like 10 times a week, and I'm like, this can't be the best use of like resources, and it just
Kind of like landscaping, right? 7 different.
Yeah, that's another one.
landscapers there, yeah.
well, I do my own yard, but yes, there are
But you don't do your own garbage now, come on.
I don't do my own. I mean, there's a limit, and my car's not big enough for. Anyway, so my point is, like, has the town ever thought about like contracting with different? Is that not a better, like, I don't know? Then, am I crazy?
The individual haulers that you speak of
Yes.
have no association with the town. They're basically
Right.
a private industry going out there, generating business and running a business to make money.
But do towns in the Northeast not
Well,
contract
I lived
with?
in I lived in Westchester
It
before I
varies.
moved here.
They do.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they
it's
had a
town to
town
town.
pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That was-
varies.
But it was in your, I mean, you paid
Roll
for
in
it
your
through your taxes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's part of the
Totally.
reason why I moved here, is because
Right.
the property taxes in Westchester are
No, but there's
far greater
there's
than what they
somewhere
are
in
here.
between those two things where the town could say, oh, we have contracted
There's-
with
there's
these
many
haulers at
different
a
ways.
preferred rate,
Many
and
different
you
ways that
could.
service could be delivered.
Right,
I
I'm
don't
just-
know that, we could explore it. I don't
So
think it's
instead
been-
of 10 trucks coming down my street with like diesel fuel and like all the stuff, it would be one truck.
I
And they
understand.
would pick it all up at once instead of waking me up at 4 and then 5 and then 6 in the morning. Do you know what I'm saying?
One way to look at this is this gives folks an opportunity to opt out if it's provided
Oh, totally.
to everybody.
Totally.
To Roll's point, this, it
Oh,
does
no,
save,
I-
on the whole, probably
Absolutely.
less
I'm not saying you
resources.
have to
Sounds like
opt
we'll move
in.
here.
I'm saying if the
No,
town
no.
were
It's a-
to
no,
say,
you moved here. I didn't say that.
contract with several people and get a group rate,
Right.
it would be better for the removal people too, because they could go down one street and be like, oh,
Density.
there's, do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
density, route density.
I don't know, am I-
Making everyone
Oh, yeah.
pick up their trash on the
Yeah.
same day. What kind of centralized control are you trying to
Capitalism
foist
to
on
me,
the good
but-
people of
Keep
Darien?
an eye on her, keep an eye on her.
But,
Which I completely support.
Is there anything else, anything else we can let Ed,
I have one quick question. We have had, you don't believe me. So far to my
I was waiting
knowledge,
for the
we
word
have had-
sidewalk to come out.
We've had 0 measurable snowfall this year
Oh.
in Darien.
Literally.
So I assume that there's 2 impacts here, and can you just confirm and explain a little bit? Well, number one, I assume that we have a budget for snow removal, which is mostly overtime for people who would be doing the removing. And I assume that we haven't spent any of that, or very little of that. So if we continue to have 0 snow this year, how much would we save? How much is that budget that we would save? And then number 2, I assume there's also a cost for salt and other supplies.
Mhm.
To what degree do those supplies deteriorate if you have 1 ton of salt in the salt dome as of
That was covered
May
in the.
1st.
That was covered, if you
Sorry,
watched the.
does that, sorry, I failed to
Just
do my
joking,
homework.
TV 79.
I'll give you
It covered
The
it.
quick version.
Sorry,
Yeah,
does it,
no problem.
does it evaporate, or, I mean, I don't know.
Well, first, salt doesn't go bad.
Okay,
All right, so I could have salt in there for years.
okay.
It does not go bad at all. We flooded it, and it still didn't go bad. Okay, 6 feet of water in there, and it still was fine. So, and we've reused it all. I filled up that salt dome in May at a discount price last year, before they shut me off. Always looking for a bargain. I want to thank Darren for that. This year, after we used some, and our price was only $1 different per ton, I went and filled it up some more. So I still have salt in there. Now, I've kept some of the 85,000, I believe. So I think I have maybe 30, 40 left of 1,000 probably. And if it stays the way it is, I won't be spending that on salt. That's one part. The second part is overtime. Though the majority overtime is to deal with snow, it also deals with other items or storms that we deal with throughout the whole year. I think my overtime budget was around $110,000 for this fiscal year. I haven't spent a whole lot of it, maybe 20%, 25%, I'd be guessing, but somewhere in that range, due to the storms and any other overtime. So you'll see that I'll still have a large balance in there too, and I'm sure that end of the hallway's keeping a really good eye on that too, and this is the time of year that we actually start, monitoring and watching our budget really well, because this is where it gets a little bit, especially with the snow, used to get a little bit out of control. So we do keep an eye on it. This is my time of year now.
I hope we didn't jinx the no snow.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be your fault,
I
Frank.
could use 3
I
or 4
know,
inches
seriously.
just to,
My sled
just to
didn't
make sure
get
the truck's
used
working.
yet.
You know?
So, next year, sure, but not this year.
Not this year? Okay.
Hopefully we've covered everything that everybody raised and then some. Ed, as always,
Thank you.
enjoyed this.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you inviting me. You folks have been
Thank
kind. You've
you.
always been kind. Not a problem. Anytime you need me here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
To be cognizant of the time, other things on the agenda were, thanks again.
All right. Take care, folks. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Meeting you.
If it's okay, we'll pick up the budget on the next meeting. The budget has been gone through the Board of Selectmen. Next stop is Board of Finance.
Yep.
And we can go over the operating and the capital items, so that we got a little bit of a preview here tonight. I know I'd reached out to a few of the subcommittees in the past couple of weeks on a couple of outstanding items. Let me see if I can recall what those were. One of them
was the garage floor, which he would just want
Yeah,
to.
we covered the garage floor, we
Yeah.
covered the flooding.
The flooding studies.
One of the flooding. Or some other.
No, it was,
The studies.
there were a couple, there was a catch basin one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, somebody had reported a full catch basin. That's right.
Yes.
The one on Middlesex Road, is that the,
Give me a moment to find that note.
Oh, I don't.
I wrote down some stuff there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you have it? Do you remember
Yeah,
what it was?
it's 397 Middlesex Road, do you know what was the,
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
it was one of your emails that you kicked over? And some pictures of.
Yep.
It's kind
There
of
was one
interesting.
particular catch basin
Yes.
that a resident reached out about. One moment to find it. 397 Middlesex Road.
Yes.
Corner of Hanson
Yes.
Road.
Hmm.
We may have to reach out, follow up if that's one of the ones. I know there's catch basins, some catch basins being repaired. You mentioned at the working session Hanson. Is Hanson the one down there by the country club? I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hanson Road
It's where the
Bridge.
Yeah,
bridge-
he mentioned the bridge, but he
Yeah.
also mentioned the catch basin down there as well, that they got the approval to run a lateral.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what this one is. Oh, it is. It is. This is the one.
Yeah.
It's just, yes, he addressed that one in the working session, that they
Okay.
got the permission to move forward. Thanks, Pat, for reminding me on that one.
Okay.
So that's a yes. I think that was the only one. There was another one on lights, which actually I kicked over to public light and safety. It was a safety issue, not a.
Okay.
It still may find its way to Ed. It had to do with a traffic light.
Okay.
So I think that was the outreach from residents that I was hoping to cover. And those were the 3 subcommittees. Anything on sewer?
I have no answer for
No
sewer.
sewer.
I already covered swap shop.
Okay, you're all caught up? Is there anything else?
I'm glad to
we
know
need
it's
to cover here?
closing. Temporarily.
All right, well, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
You want me doing any subcommittee work?
Oh, yeah, we gotta assign you somewhere.
I didn't accept that motion. so.
You're
We're not
gonna get away with
closed.
it.
We'll keep rolling.
I mean,
So
Do you
79,
have a
keep rolling.
Maybe I should have just
preference,
let it go.
No, Rolf,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been tracking, you know the subcommittees we have, or I can go over what we've got. Is there an area of interest that you would like to participate in? I mean, do you want me to
Well-
go over what we've already got
Yeah, if you
covered?
could just do that briefly,
Yeah.
although I do have some ideas of
Sure.
where my interest would lie.
Does everyone know Rolf too? Everyone met?
Introduce this to that.
Is there anyone here you don't know, Rolf?
Well,
I'm new.
meeting for the
Yep.
first time. And yes,
Rolf was our chair.
yeah, I served with the
Last
committee
year.
for
Oh,
several
wow.
years,
Yeah.
working first with Monica McNally on the chair, and then she moved over to the RTM, so I stepped in as chair, served last year as chair, lost the election.
And now you're.
But then
Caucused in, right?
someone
You were
else,
not to be
someone else
denied, though.
resigned.
Yeah.
So now I'm back.
Uh-huh.
Back.
So Rolf, I gave you a little
Sure.
eulogy at our first meeting here.
Did you? Thank you. Did you?
It was beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Now you gotta eat it.
So we've got, these are the areas, here are the areas we have broken out right now.
Uh-huh.
And open to other, so finance and budget. Jeff and I are covering that, sidewalks and roads, Caroline and Ian. Sewers, Frank and Vince. Dams, let's see who's doing dams. Jeff, who else besides Jeff? That's it. The waste facility, the recycling city, the center, the dump, the swap shop, that's Paige and Carrie. Pat and Ian are covering flooding. On Sustainable Environmental Commission, Paige and Carrie. Coastal Waters is Jeff and Vince. Great Island is Eric. And Town and Buildings and Operations are Pat and Pat.
It's quite a lineup.
It's an all-star group of people.
It's an all-star group, and those are, those tend to be the main areas, and a couple of special interests mixed in there.
Okay.
We're
Just-
welcome to anything, we're always looking for more hands.
Well, I'm just trying to see, which one I can fit in with. I do want to mention that I interviewed last night with the Republican Nomination Committee for a position on the Coastal Waters Advisory Commission. So if they accept my application, then that would move on to an interview with the Board of Selectmen. If they accept me as well, then I have a possibility of being on that commission. So,
You have to resign from the
Yeah,
RTM.
that-
no, I've covered that
Is
with,
that right? Okay.
with, in fact, Seth Morton. I got him involved with that question.
Yep.
And he came back to me chapter and verse, so to speak, with all the wording that says, yeah, because it's an advisory commission, that it's not a conflict.
Maybe you
Okay.
could be the coastal
Yeah.
waters
That would make sense,
guy.
wouldn't it?
So.
Want to wait, want to defer?
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
wait a
we can put that down, but yeah, I think it would possibly be contingent on if I am accepted, but even if I'm not.
Yep.
Because I already know
You could
quite a number of people
still
there,
actually-
and because of the interviewing process, which is quite substantial.
What's it called again? Coastal waters?
Advisory Commission. Really should be committee, because they really don't have true commission
Yeah, the commission is what's
responsibilities.
swayed me on
Yeah.
whether or not you.
Yeah, it's really, it has
It's a
no
committee,
powers.
it's an advisory committee.
It's an
so
advisory committee, they have
yeah.
no powers whatsoever, they have no
Appointed by the Board of
budget.
Selectmen, so it's like this,
Well,
used to be
it's like the
environmental.
sustainability advisory is another example.
Yeah, that doesn't preclude you.
Architectural Review Board also really has
Yep.
no powers.
Let me-
They're an advisory committee as
If I
well.
can impose on you, Rolf, I've observed, a fair amount about the flooding projects. We have multiple people on multiple areas. I would very much welcome if you would
Well, my interest,
Participate in
yeah,
that
my
as
interest
well.
in flooding is definitely there.
Yeah.
And it specifically to storm, drain water, flooding,
I would welcome the
okay?
continuity.
I'll
on
leave
that.
I'll leave the sewage to Frank.
Hands off. So,
And I'm hands-on.
I know there's a lot of interest about, the article that was in the paper recently about the E. coli study that was done, and,
Westport, Campo Beach.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
And,
that one. Good times.
yeah.
Stop it.
the only thing I would say is,
Glad I missed it.
we already have an I&I study that's going on to try and reduce the amount of leakage of our sewer system, okay? And I'm sure that's a factor. We have two major water courses that flow into Gorham's Pond, the Goodwives River and the Stony Brook, okay? And that's got to be, I would say, certainly more than half of the water that flows, probably 2/3, I would say. And it all goes into that Gorham's Pond, so. And we don't test anything in Gorham's Pond.
Well, hang on, respectfully, we
Yeah.
have a huge tract of, and this again, is beyond the scope of what we can talk about here tonight, but we have a huge tract of homes that are on the coastline.
Yes.
That do not
They're
connect
all,
to the sanitary sewer.
they're all on septic.
That are all on septics.
Right.
And that are aggressively resisting being tested for integrity,
Mhm.
to my understanding.
Yeah, and that,
Which I find troubling is an understatement.
okay, and in part of that also, I believe, as a factor, is that the runoff, the nature of that topography is not permeable, or it's a lesser permeability than other parts of town, okay? And so that water runs down there a lot faster and does not go into the ground, it just comes off and into the Long Island Sound.
So surface runoff.
So the surface runoff there is substantial for that reason.
So.
I live in Salem Straits in front of Scott Cove.
Oh, okay.
I live on top of a ledge.
Okay.
Yeah, a septic system, a private septic system on top of a ledge. It won't work. It doesn't work. Thank God we have the pumped-in sewer system that we hooked up to.
Okay.
But Delafield Island and Tokenie doesn't.
I think we've wrapped up our
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
for
For tonight,
Works
certainly, yeah,
Committee.
we can
Now
carry
is
this on
adjourned.
another time.
Thank you, 79.
Yeah.
Thank you, each of you, for your time.